Good evening. My name is Jeff Schmidt, Senior Writer for Poets and Quants. I want to welcome you to our online MBA admissions panel. This panel includes representatives from Lehigh University, University of Michigan, and also Santa Clara University as well. I'd like to start off with introductions. Sean and Nydia, if you could maybe just introduce who you are, your school, briefly, your role, and also something people might not know about you and they wouldn't even be able to find it on Google. Sean.
Sure, why not? Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Kennedy. I'm representing Lehigh University's MBA programs here this evening. I am one of the graduate recruiting managers within the Lehigh University's College of Business, or Lehigh Business. I'm happy to be here with you all tonight. Jeff, are you saying personally what people wouldn't find out, or about Lehigh?
Let's talk about personal, because sometimes admissions can be kind of mystifying. You know, you're like, oh my gosh, these guys are in charge of my potentially my future. We're just all flesh and blood. Tell us something about you.
Know. I keep a low profile on the internet, I think, so I think it'd be pretty hard to find things out about me. I guess I was a first generation student myself. So, you know, I take pride in that and like working with students that way. I don't think that's something you necessarily find right away. But something fun, I got to go to Kenya during my own graduate experience, and I feel like that was a standout experience for me to be able to apply kind of those concepts into my everyday work as well. So maybe 2 fun facts there.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Anne?
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Anne Schoen. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions at the Ross School of Business for our part-time programs, which include online and weekend. So obviously, you know, my role talking to prospective students and sitting in on interviews and helping to make recommendations. Like Sean, I don't really have an online profile. I never did Facebook. I know that's probably like a horrible thing to say, but I'm glad I never got sucked into that. So you probably can't find much about me. So something fun, I have a set of boy-girl twins that were kind of a surprise. So they keep me very busy. So yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Anne. Nydia?
Thanks so much, Jeff. And I have to say, Anne, you stole my fun fact. So
really?
Yes, I have no Facebook account. I never did.
I thought it was gonna be the twins.
Oh no. My name is Nydia McGregor. I'm Senior Assistant Dean here at the Levy School of Business at Santa Clara University. For people who know the Bay Area a little bit, we're at the bottom of the Bay, about 40 miles south of San Francisco, right in the heart of Silicon Valley. My role here is all things grad business. So I have a fabulous team of folks who help people find the program that's right for them, whether that's in executive ed or in our executive MBA or part-time evening MBA or the online MBA, which we're here to talk about today. Let's see, fun fact. Now, you know, I noticed how I spun that as long as I could so that I could figure something out. Yes, okay, fun fact. I was raised in Southern California, but came north for going to undergrad at UC Santa Cruz in, wait for it, history, not business, not education, but history. And so people probably wouldn't know that about me, but that means that I'm really open to non-traditional career paths, right? And I think we had a dean who used to like to say that everybody ends up in business someday. And that's kind of how I think about it as well.
That's a great insight. Appreciate that. Well, Nydia, I'm going to stick with you to start off the questioning. First thing I think our readers would like to know is just give us a little bit of an introduction to your program, some of the basics as far as your length, the program, the online program, the size of it, some of its unique features, and some of the real differentiators that you have.
Sure. Well, let me start with sort of the basics. Generally, it's a 2-year program that people can take as full-time employees, right? So most of our students are full-time professionals. They take about 8 units per quarter. We are on the quarter system, but it's really flexible. Our courses come in 4 and 2 unit sort of increments. So it's very easy to sort of roll on a 4 or a 2 unit if you want to go accelerate a little bit or if you want to slow down. And we have students who, in every range of those kinds of choices, make those choices. So it's very flexible. Let's see, program size, we have about 280 online MBA students. That's out of our 900 graduate students that we have at the Levy School. So, it's a pretty substantial proportion of that. And it's just slightly larger than our evening MBA program. The program, though, in terms of curriculum, is identical to our evening MBA program. We have really a focus on Silicon Valley, or what I would say there's a bright red thread through the program, lots of Silicon Valley information, right? So some of that is because that's where our faculty do their research. When we have guest speakers, that's where they come from. But the other bit is we want to make sure that students, even if they're not in the Valley, are prepared for, I'll call it the habits of mind and practice and the way to think about things, ask questions, right? That will help them in business in the 21st century. And that really comes down to frequently understanding how to pose a question, understanding how to examine something, right? Those critical thinking skills, rather than necessarily knowing the immediate answer. I like to say that we're trying to prepare students to ask the questions, even though the questions haven't been posed yet, right? That's what many of our firms here in the Valley are doing. Other unique features of our program, we have a dedicated career team that has career services exclusively for online students, and that includes coaches, that includes webinars, career fairs, executive speakers, information sessions, tech treks. And when we started the program 4 years ago, we really thought that that was going to be very important for our students. And it really turned out to be true. And it makes a huge difference in their experience in their career, especially because many of them, while they're full-time professionals, are looking at making some kind of change, whether that's an industry change or some other pivot, rather than just looking perhaps to the next promotion, which some people do, but the career services come in a lot for evaluating what they want to do next. We have the SCU Anywhere program, where students can take on-campus courses if they would like to in the electives area, not core courses. And so some students avail themselves of that. Not everybody does, but it's an additional part of the flexibility. And then I think the last thing that I'd say is that Santa Clara University is it's sort of a traditional liberal arts college, but I think where that bleeds over in our business school is that we have relatively small courses, class sizes, I mean. So we have about 40 students per class. We don't have TAs regularly. The faculty that teach or the faculty that grade, they're the faculty that interact with students, and they're the same faculty regardless of whether if you're in the online MBA program or whether you're in the evening program. So I'll stop there because I can't hog all the time, but I'd say that's what I got to start.
Great, very insightful. Thank you. And tell us about your program.
Sure. So we're relatively a newcomer to the space. So we launched our program in fall of 2019. We have 2 different intake points. Students can begin the program either in September or January. The program is self-paced and very flexible, again, serving that working professional need. So most students will likely finish in between 3 to 4 years if they take about 2 to 3 classes per term, which is sort of like a doable pace. But they're welcome to accelerate if they want to go faster, or if they need longer. Life happens, and so if they need to slow it down, they can do that as well. So while our students are on a term schedule semester, we teach our courses in 7-week increments, so that we use sort of like a mini term. So over the course of the semester, there's 2 7-week periods so that they can focus on sort of one class at a time. So maybe, they work in retail and November and December is just insane and they can't take a class. That's fine. They don't have to, but they can still get credits in September and October in the fall A term. So very flexible in terms of pacing. The courses are a blend of synchronous learning, asynchronous work, as well as residential experiences. So the majority of the classes are this blend of self-study, self-paced modules that the faculty have pre-prepared that they can do simulations and watch online on their own time whenever it's convenient for them. And then like every other week, they'll have a live class session, and that will be taught from our Smart Stage. So the faculty member will be live in the studio. Those class sizes are limited to 49 students for the live portion. And they're about an hour and a half. So that's where all the case-based discussion and presentations and sort of covering anything that they didn't understand and what they did in their modules will take place in those synchronous sessions. Then there are 3 required residencies as part of our program. So those residencies last about 3 to 5 days in length, and it just varies with the topic. And you would come to campus, you would work with your fellow students, do synchronous and asynchronous learning in advance of the actual in-person portion. But then the students will be on campus interacting with one another, really sort of diving in, action-based learning, and sort of really developing those bonds and relationships. So we make students do 3 before they graduate, and we assume because they're working professionals, they probably want to save some of their own vacation time for a real vacation instead of school. So we try to sort of plan them over weekends so they only have to take a few days at a time coming out to join us. So currently our topics are a residency on leadership. We have a residency on business innovation, so an entrepreneurial residency, and one on transformation, so more of an operations residency. So that's kind of, I know it's hard to summarize it, but that's the program in a nutshell. A couple of the differentiators, which maybe aren't necessarily differentiators because it sounds like my peers might have some of the same things, but we do have dedicated career services for our students. So again, for those looking to make a transition, we're happy to help them with that, or those who are looking to accelerate, we've got assistance as well. So because students going part-time doesn't necessarily mean they don't want to make a transition. So that's what's great. And also, I think, our action-based learning is really sort of what we're known for. Our multidisciplinary action project, residential experiences, really sort of taking everything to the next level in terms of applying what they're learning to real world is what we're known for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sean, tell us more about Lehigh.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to hear from my peers as well. Yeah, so our program is probably a blend of both of those. The Lehigh Flex MBA program is the one that we're talking about tonight. This is a part-time online and evening program. So it kind of combines a lot of those pieces together. I think we're kind of a uniquer program in certain terms of it truly being a hybrid approach to the curriculum that way, in terms of it's an on-campus and online synchronous program. So the classes are always live. They're in the evenings from 6 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't be fooled. We do have students on the West Coast who do take those classes as well, because they're typically only Monday through Thursday, about 1 night a week per how many classes they're registering for. There is flexibility in terms of not overwhelming themselves, right? Like it's a lot. We recognize they have family, as we all kind of highlighted, and other responsibilities outside of work, and maybe they do want to have fun as well, and they're adding this into that schedule. So there's a lot of flexibility and support built into the program. It is, like I said, a true hybrid approach. So students who are local to the Bethlehem area where Lehigh is located, some students will come to campus for class, some students will be online, and they will do a blend of both. They can actually choose week to week how they want to attend those classes. There's no residency requirement, there's no campus requirement, so the students can be 100% fully online. So it is customizable that way. We are on the traditional semester format. So they do run the traditional fall, spring, and summer. And we have intakes for fall, spring, and summer as well. So your largest being fall, I think that's the most traditional feeling, right? Like start school in the fall, but spring being the next, and then summer as well. Broken up between core and electives. We have currently 7 concentrations available for students to be able to pick from to kind of further customize and flex that experience. There is a long window. I would say more so lately, I've been hearing students kind of wanting that 2-year trek. I've heard it was done in about, the fastest was maybe about 18 months. I'm pretty sure they didn't work or breathe or sleep, or I'm pretty sure they just lived MBA life. So don't recommend that, but if that's for you, that's great. But some students, I think closer to that 2.5 to 3 year mark, really kind of spreading it out, not overwhelming themselves that way. Very similar to my peers as well. We do have career services dedicated. We do bring in professional development opportunities for our students online and or on campus, that true hybrid approach for all of our pieces that we do there. Our differentiator, like I said, I would definitely kind of further highlight that hybrid approach, as we do have dedicated classroom space for the Flex MBA program. So the students that are in class, there's microphones, there's cameras, and so that engagement piece isn't missing. Students are getting that full classroom experience. having those engaged conversations with their faculty who are mic'd and presenting to them, and seeing who's in distance world and seeing who's in front of them, and both, right? Like everyone's face is kind of just changing, whether they're in front of them or if they're on camera. The group work still works, right? I always tell students time management is going to be a skill you're leaving with if you didn't come in with it. So all of those pieces as well. So a lot of support, a lot of personalization, very similar in size. We cap the classes at 35. So you'll never be in a class really bigger than that. As you kind of get into your electives, because that's where you kind of can really customize your program even further, that flexible approach to we're not forcing you into it. Just take those core classes that you have to, collaborate that way, and everyone's kind of on their own journey.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I want to stick with you, Sean. Lehigh,
Right.
in our most recent survey, ranked among the top schools for fostering connections with faculty, fostering connections with alumni. You ranked among I think you're second, I believe, in just being recommended by your alumni. I want to talk to you maybe want to talk to you first about community.
Yeah.
How do you foster connections with your students, with the larger alumni base in the school,
Yeah.
not to mention the larger Lehigh University? And also, how do you kind of create connections to establish that close-knit cohort that has been kind of a trademark of your school, especially at, I know a lot about you in the undergrad, and that's one of your big strengths. Talk to us about that in the online space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, how we do that is, while it's an online program, right? I think some people become afraid because online, we've all been there, right? Like we avoid social media if we can. Like we don't, online can feel impersonal sometimes, right? Or that way. And so I think Lehigh has found a way for our students to make those connections through the internet, right? Like through the online synchronous classroom, having those connections, really fostering that engagement, all the way from the admissions process being very personal to really bringing in the right type of student that is bringing certain skill sets or bringing certain motivations into the classroom, from the support of the program director that really gets to know every student, that those individual advising sessions, right? Like they really get to know them, their personal life, when our students are welcoming or starting their new family, right? Like just as going as far as sending them a onesie of the MBA, right? Like, and just, welcoming the baby into the MBA program as well. So there's just so many different ways that I think our faculty, our program director, the staff of Lehigh, especially in the graduate programs office with the MBA, really just go above and beyond to really personalize that experience for students, just because we don't want them to feel like they're a distant student or they're specifically an on-campus student. We just want them to feel like they're a Lehigh MBA student. And so I think our faculty even take that further as well, is really getting to know the students, right? Like they're engaging with them, they know their story, they might even know their resume before they get into class, if they got to meet them before that, or there's just so many different ways that they really personalize it to get to know each student individually. And then I just think opportunity, we engage with them. We try and have like events where they can also network with our full-time MBA students as well, right? Like there's some crossover with potentially some elective courses. And with our online program not being cohort based per se, right? I think students start taking classes together and they realize who they work well together with. And so then they start building those relationships and build out the curriculum together that way. There's so many different opportunities to meet students as they're all starting the MBA journey. But then as they jump in later further, they get to meet students who are a little bit further along in the program and really build those connections as well. And just by taking class, they recommend each other for jobs and positions. And so the networking piece really happens in this online environment. And I think it really attributes to how great our faculty really challenge them, right? Like it's a live program. You're committing to being in front of your computer, in front of a classroom for 3.5 hours. Not an easy feat, but is to be done.
Sure.
Most even, right? Like, and they're seeing that return on investment as well, right? Because our students are full-time working professionals. They're having class Monday night. They're going into that big staff meeting on Tuesday and contributing even more week to week and understanding those different departments and seeing that return on investment as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nydia, I want to pose the same question to you. Your program has been highly recommended, known for extremely strong faculty. And so talk to us about, how you guys are able to foster that community that lets students know, hey, we're all in this together. We're not alone, and we're stronger together than we are apart.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that last bit because we talk about the Bronco family a lot. I mean, so from the moment that students get here, we talk about, you know, who are Broncos, who are we, what do we do? We talk about, we also have a residency at the beginning and the end of the online MBA program. So they're here for 3 days, and it's actually some of the team building that we do with the folks who are starting all together. So unlike Lehigh, we do have a cohort in the core courses. Obviously, once you get to electives, people begin to select what they want to do, but they are all together for those electives. We have, I'm sorry, for those core courses. We have 4 intakes a year. So when you start with your cohort, you really do begin the journey with that group. You have your residency together, and it just makes all the difference in the world in terms of beginning to feel what it means to be part of the Bronco family. But once that happens, multiple things begin to come into play. One of the things is that we have group projects in probably every single class we have. I mean, I can think of maybe 2 classes that don't, but we always believe and enact that learning is a social engagement as much as it is sort of like a book learning engagement, right? And in doing that and understanding that about pedagogy, our faculty make sure that whether it's a stats class or, you know, a strategy class or a finance class, that students are talking to one another and they're working on projects together, they're working on homework or other kinds of assignments or discussion boards together so that they have an opportunity to, you know, try out that idea, reflect back on one another. What are you having trouble with? Did you understand it? Oh, let me explain that to you, right? So that engagement is happening on an ongoing basis, even though week over week, module over module, it's asynchronous, but they're having those conversations with one another in their groups, you know, sort of in spite of that. The other thing, and I've heard faculty say this to me, is the discussion boards get really rich. I have a faculty member who teaches behavioral finance, and he actually has said he would prefer to have some of those conversations in a discussion board format than in person, because 2 things happen. One, every student really gets a chance to peel apart whatever's important to them, whatever's important about the point they want to make, right? They all have a platform. But then the second thing is he gets to know students better, again, because he gets a chance to see them. And then pretty soon they're having that conversation that in many ways is richer than what he would be able to do in person. So I think residencies, the cohort, group work on an ongoing basis. And then finally, we have lots of events, and we do events virtually as well as here on campus. About 40% of our students live in Santa Clara County. Another 60% live either outside the county or really outside the county, right? So we have 10 different states represented, including like Hawaii and New York. So folks are all over the place, but we can get together with virtual events, and besides residencies, if they want to come for events that are on campus, we encourage that. And that's where we get some cross-pollination across programs as well. So for example, we have an event to go see a play that's being held this weekend, and we have MBAs coming, and they're going to have dinner together and then watch the play. It's Midsummer Night's Dream, so it's an evening event outside. So it works well. So all kinds of things, but we are focused on that community building, because we think that that's an important part of the experience, not just from a personal level and a networking level, but from a learning level as well.
Thank you, Nydia. You know, Anne, the University of Michigan has so many inherent advantages. You know, you have world-class faculty teaching your online programs. You know, you are backed by one of the top research universities in the United States. You know, your network is regaled as one of the most engaged. You know, talk to me about how you foster community within the University of Michigan, both with the students and also with your alumni, to really give your online MBAs a distinct advantage in the marketplace.
Yeah, so similar to many of my colleagues, you know, some of the things that it's just, I can't echo everything you're saying.
Sure.
But in terms of, you know, our program, so the students, we don't have necessarily like a cohort function in the program. Students are able to go at their own pace, but because we're new and we've only had a few intakes, just sort of by nature of that's the way it is. So students sort of stick together in that cohort as they go through for their first couple of classes as they work through the course. So there's sort of this informal cohort that's formed. Also, they have the ability to come to campus for electives, if they want to be in person when they get to that stage as well, similar to what you guys offer. But I think, one of the things that we heard from the students was they actually want more on-campus experiences, which was kind of ironic because we thought, oh, online program, like you want to be able to do it from wherever, and you don't really want to have to be forced to come to campus. But so we launched this year a new welcome weekend. It was optional to bring students to campus early on in the program. And we actually intentionally overlapped it with our leadership residency, or our transformation residency. So students had a chance not only to engage with each other as they're only about 3 weeks into the program, and get a chance to meet each other, some of the team building, cohort building. And then they had a chance to engage with, the second and third year students, hear from them, learn from their experiences, and really sort of blend those lines between first, second, third year students. Our residencies in general have cross-pollination built into them in terms of participating with weekend MBAs and full-time MBAs and some of the action-based learning that we do. So the students will have a chance, again, to work outside their program. Same thing with cases, team-based work. All of our classes pretty much has a huge element in what they do. In terms of, sort of alumni engagement, and activities, we have tons of events. We have, great clubs that our online students are welcome to participate in the majority of the clubs, unless there's a curricular component for which they can't participate because they're working in the middle of the day. So they definitely will get involved. We have a student-led board, so they're planning a lot of professional development and co-curricular events, to help the students. And our alumni are fantastic. Most of the time, they're engaged with us in terms of submitting map proposals for our multidisciplinary action project. So really reaping the benefits. The map program's been around for roughly 30 years. So a lot of the students, now who are working, remember how transformational that experience was for them, and so they're bringing proposals to Ross to bring on teams of students. So a really engaged group, and we always have way more map proposals than we have students to staff them, so that's really great. And of course, the network, alumni network, go blue at the end of any email. There's over 500,000 Wolverines everywhere, so you cannot get away from them if you try. But that's a really great thing for students, not only while they're going through the program, but also for the rest of their career in terms of, developing that connection. All you have to do is, talk about your project with a fellow MBA, or put go blue at the bottom of an email, and you're pretty much guaranteed a response.
Thank you, Ann. And I'd like to stick with you. First of all, I was a little surprised that students don't want to come to campus. Ann Arbor is the place to be. My gosh, it's wonderful out there. Let me ask, I want to talk to you a little bit about support. I'm going to shorten the question normally to what I normally do. Support is so important for MBA students, not feeling that they're not alone and that they're cared for and they're going to always be taken care of. I want each of you to maybe give me one example of the type of support that ensure something that you do that ensures people don't fall behind, that they achieve their goals, or they maximize the value of their online MBA experience. And let's start with you. One thing.
Yeah, well, we have a team of graduate advisors that really are there to advise students one-on-one in terms of, sort of what they're taking, because of course in the online program they have a slate of electives and they can choose. So sort of that one-on-one customization in terms of course planning and time to degree, and then also again just getting to know them as a person, what they want out of this experience. So we have a team of graduate advisors that are working with our students directly.
Thank you, Ann. Sean, tell us about one thing that Lehigh does that really provides support that enables students to really get the most out of their MBA experience there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think to just kind of echo Ann's point, our program director who coordinates the one-on-one advising from the very first time advising session where you're getting to know them and helping them build that plan, and the every semester check-in of offering those appointments to make sure everything's going on track and doing all of that, and just that personal level of seeing them through every semester and class and check how it's going and really talk to them through that. I just know that our alumni come back and thank the program director for all of the effort that has been coordinated on her behalf. So definitely just definitely our big selling point there.
Thank you. Nydia, talk to us about one unique differentiating type of support that you provide your MBA students that really, that as Sean said, they're going to come back and thank you later for it.
So I will say I'm going to end up giving you two. And that's just
Okay.
simply because, like my colleagues, our students have a student success coordinator. So as soon as they move from the admissions team, they move to a single person that they know is their single point of contact. And that starts with them at the beginning and helps them all the way through. And that's everything from just answering questions and pointing in the right direction to helping you understand options within the program. But then also, if you run into a rough patch, they're there to help you problem solve, understand what your options are. And even if it's something like, I suddenly discovered I have to, travel lots next quarter, what am I going to do? There's the same person is the person they interface with, their student success coordinator. So that makes a big difference. The thing that I will add is the interactions with our alums. And bless you, Anne. Our alumni are so excited to engage with students. And so that just means that if students have any questions about what kind of career they want, what kind of firm they'd like to go to, we have people placed all over the place. Dare I say, the top 500 Fortune 500 companies, across the globe. And so if you need something, a Bronco's there to help you out. And I think that's the other thing, is it always means they feel like they can lean on that, and they do lean on it. And so if you reach out for a Bronco's going to give you an answer and help you find your way.
Thank you. Let's pivot to the application process. It's something sometimes MBA applicants look at and go, wow, this can be a little bit intimidating. I'd like from each of you to hear relatively succinctly, what is one thing that can get you on the top of your pile? And what is one mistake that they could make in the application process, be it the actual application, the letter of recommendation, the essay? What is one thing that they can do that would raise red flags and raise questions with you? Nidhi, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Sure. I mentioned before that project groups work is very important. We're interested in helping to foster principled leaders who are going to go out and lead teams in some of the highest profile firms on the globe. And that means two things. One, there's a bit about integrity. And the other is really willing to be engaged with, whether it's peers in a group setting or whether it's community. And so the second one, being engaged, being somebody who's willing to be a leader, but within the group context, right? Not just an individual contributor. That's really something that we're looking for. We have lots of MBAs who come to us who are very ambitious. That's part of why they're here, and that's great, but not at the exclusion of somebody else's success. So I think that's the kind of thing that we're really looking for. And when our students come and they talk about the kind of community involvement they have, or the kinds of roles or functional area that they're involved with at their office, right? It doesn't have to be community work, but who are you, and how are you living into your leadership right now? And then how does that relate to the kind of manager or leader you'd like to grow into? So those are the sorts of things that we're looking for.
Thank you, Nydia. Anne, your thoughts?
Sure. So I'll start with what you can not do or should not do on an application, because that's pretty easy. So some of the things that are big no-nos for us in terms of an application, again, academic integrity. We do, check essays for plagiarism, as I believe probably most do. Making sure that you proofread your essays so you don't have a different name of a school that is not ours in your essays. That is a big no-no. But it happens. But that just some simple things like that, which we kind of giggle about as admissions officers because it happens. But yeah, that's just some basic stuff there. In terms of one of the things that I like to see in applications, when we're reading essays, we want to get a sense of an authentic person behind it. And I think a lot of the time students assume that they have to, tell us what we want to hear or use MBA lingo. And really that's not the whole point of the essays. The whole point is to tell us about you, what's important to you, what you're passionate about, what you're hoping to learn in the program, and how we're going to help you get there. So good essays will always put an applicant at the top of my pile any day of the week.
Thank you. Sean.
Yeah, I would agree with my colleagues here. I really think that two words, I think honesty and authenticity, integrity, three words, I'm sorry. But like all of those pieces, I think really can stand out in all of the pieces of the application, especially the essay. I think the essay often gets overlooked as not being that important. I've really seen that make or break an application, right? Really just sets the tone, as sometimes that's usually the first piece that comes across. And I often tell applicants, I was like, we don't need a narrative of everything you've done already. I want to hear your story in your words. So really that authenticity part, like we're going to see your resume, which I also recommend don't leaving that in draft mode or with comments and just little proofreading edits. Just
I get those too.
free warning to anyone out there, the college name, definitely, I usually give that one out as free advice as well. And don't not play into your letters of rec as well. They can really be important and tell a separate side of you. And just be careful who you ask. Please leave family and significant others off the list.
Thank you. One thing that's changed the game is COVID. Years ago, people would say that the online education experience may not be where full-time is. Now, in many ways, the online MBA offers real distinct advantages over executive and full-time MBAs and really enriches students and gives them, as I mentioned, real advantages in the workplace when they come back. I want to start, Sean, briefly tell me what, with the world of work that's changed, how does an online MBA really add value and add a stronger return for students who go through the 2 to 3 years of an online MBA and work in this type of environment that maybe somebody else doesn't necessarily get?
Yeah, I think COVID definitely shifted a lot of our industries, right, and really made everyone really rethink things. What I think one of the benefits to the way our program was already operating was that it already had the online synchronous component built into it, and every student was already equipped with both modalities, right? Like whether you were ever going to come to campus or not, you were prepared and had the technology to do both. I think more people were less afraid of an online education as they explored the beginning of 2020 and that year that became infamous. But I think an online education, at least at Lehigh and probably other schools as well, just that fear of the online not being able to build those connections or not allowing you to reach those career goals, or students really can see that right away as long as they kind of take the risk and jump right in. I think coming into that, they're more prepared to be able to manage and lead in a remote setting. I think they find those interesting ways to make those personal connections. You have to work a little bit harder when you're coming through like a online. I'm sure we can all get the Zoom meetings with the student. It looks a little different than a face-to-face and the virtual events, right? Like, so it takes a little bit more effort to build that connection, but it's still definitely possible. So I think students who go through that online component just have that skill set built into it, and hopefully they're getting it done the right way as well. And so just learning from it, the good, bad, and the ugly, right? And like just taking that to the piece. But I think the online education has allowed students to also not have to sacrifice their time, right? Like they can, whether it's an on-demand, like a little bit more move on your own pace, or the live, you're still kind of building it into your own schedule and learning all of those pieces, and the online environment allowing you to balance maybe a little bit more than you could have, when you were going to like a full-time program or something along those lines.
Thank you. Nidhi, I'm going to approach a different question to you. Work-life balance, that's something sometimes MBA applicants worry about. How am I going to be a good father or mother? How am I going to be able to maintain a marriage? How am I ever going to maintain work when I'm already working 50 hours a week, and or my family, my friends going to think I'm a hermit? What, from your experience watching MBAs over these years, online MBAs over these years, give me 2 things that online MBAs can do to really ensure a strong work-life balance so they can enjoy the MBA experience and enjoy their life as well.
I would say try not to eat the whole elephant over the weekend. that, I think, Sean, you mentioned time management, right? That if you didn't come to the program with time management skills, you'll leave the program with time management skills. But even more importantly, sometimes students think that, well, there are, for this class, I might have 10 hours worth of work over the week. Let me just split that over Saturday and Sunday. And actually, from a learning perspective and from a coordination perspective with your teammates, that doesn't work well. So knowing that throughout the week, 1 to 2 hours every evening, you're going to spend some time on coursework so that at the end of the week, what you're actually doing is sort of synthesizing and bringing it all together and finishing off your final comments on a discussion board or your assignment for that week, that module. That I think is really important. I think the other thing is all those relationships we were talking about, those are key to being able to do this together, right? So our students get really good at huddling really quickly and saying, we're going to divide and conquer, we're going to collaborate on a Google Doc, here's what, and lean on one another and really use that. And I think that's the other thing that benefits them as they go forward, right? But it is a way that it makes it tenable. If somebody comes in and they think they're just going to be able to do all of this by themselves the whole time, carry the group project, right? That's it. You won't be nearly as successful as if you really say, hey, we're all in this together. Let's figure this out.
Thank you. And I'm going to pose a different question to you as well. University of Michigan's one of the most resource-rich programs around your MBA program. You're constantly tinkering. You're constantly adding. One thing that I see sometimes with online MBAs is they don't take advantage of everything that's available to them. And talk to us maybe 2 things that maybe you see that online MBAs aren't taking advantage of in these type of programs that you think would provide a strong value and return on investment to them, if not great personal growth and that nature.
Yeah, so we have some great institutes and centers, excuse me, that do really great programming. But for example, like our Sanger Leadership Center, they have a Ross Leaders Academy, they have Leadership X. So they have some of these, they're competitive programs to get into, but really for the cohort of students who join those programs, it's very intense, it's very transformational. That I wish that more students in the online space would engage with, because it really is a wonderful experience, and a lot of students have said really great things about those types of experiences. So, part of that I do think is really just logistics. Our students are in pretty much every state, and we have international students as well. So, coming to campus and participating in those types of things, sometimes it's just not physically possible. But I do wish if we could find a way to sort of offer those at times and dates that were more, possible for our online students, that would be great. I also think, students have to, they're balancing a lot. They have a lot on their plate in terms of work, school, family responsibilities. So they really have to pick and choose. I think one of our problems, if you want to call it that, it's a good problem, but is that students really struggle with fear of missing out, because there's so much going on. There's which case competition should I do? How many clubs should I join? What events do I want to attend? What's important to me? And so I think a lot of, in the beginning, they try to do too much. And so they sign up for everything and then aren't really good at anything. And so I think just sort of having that self-reflection and what is it that I want to get value out of? What's going to help me, like to your point, in my career, the ROI, all of that, pick a few things that are more, close to your heart and just go with those, lean into them rather than trying, to be sort of a jack of all trades, and do a little bit of everything.
Thank you, Anne. Looks like we've hit our time limit. Sean, Anne, Nydia, I want to thank you. This has been a really insightful and enjoyable session, and I appreciate your honesty and for coming. And I also appreciate the students who were, or the readers who were part of this as well. And don't be afraid to send that application in. It's life-changing. Thank you, everyone.